Uh, have you ever worried to go too far with your trolls
A
on
hundred
halftime show?
percent. 100%. You should see some of the stuff that never made it onto Twitch. I've got quite a few that I've gone. That's too. I can't. That's too mean. You know what I mean? No, there's quite a lot of those. In general, I always think I'm very happy with what goes out. You know what I mean? I never do things maliciously. It's always like Wabsy talked about a lot in his interview, where it's always meant actually very affectionately. And so if you're getting teased a little bit, it's done out of a place of like yeah, fondness. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing it because I like the guys. You know what I mean? It's never
It's
done out
like
of
it's a form of intimacy.
yes,
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
abs absolutely. And so if anything, be offended if you've not made a halftime show, guys. That's what you've got to be offended for. You know what I mean? That means I don't like you know. um, but you know, everybody, I always like to do it, and I think you know, I think I don't think no one's ever said, "Oh, I think that's a bit far," or anything or anything like that. And so there's obviously we all come from because it's such a worldwide institution, Team 601. We all come from a range of different cultural backgrounds where different levels of like teasing are different, and people have different, if you like, um, uh, egos or status or something. Where like maybe in certain cultures is a bit less weird. It's a bit weirder to be sort of like taking the mick, taking the piss or something. But if anyone is ever offended, I do not apologize because I mean them all in a nice way. And yeah, everyone else loved it. That's what I'll say. You know,
what we can expect from you in 2021?
from the halftime videos or just myself personally.
Halftime.
Halftime, we got a few. There's a few in the works for sure. There's a couple of I've been hoping more and more to try and transition more people to display their talents. You know, I would love it to be a place where like someone says, "Hey, I've done a poker song," and then I'll be like, "Let's get it on the halftime show." You know what I mean? So if anybody's watching, or even if they just like, "Hey, I've done a funny scene," you know, I'd love it to be like, "Yeah, I've done a scene where I pretend to be me, or something." You know what I mean? It would be brilliant, and I'd love to like use that as a space for a Team 6 1 talent show, if you like. You know,
Like a platform for
a
people to.
platform.
Yeah, awesome.
Exactly. You know what I
I
mean?
really like the idea.
I think, and like it's a win-win. You know, what I mean, it really helps me because some of the halftime videos I've spent way too long on, and so it's fantastic if someone says, "Hey, I've got this song I've done, or I've got some scene. Do you want to show I've done?" Yes, absolutely. And also, you know, like we can promote stuff. So, if someone has, you know, if someone, let's say, was working. I don't know. We all have different things we're working towards, but let's say someone had like a YouTube channel, or something they were trying to promote it a little bit. Well, here's a platform to get yourself 150 people watching
Mm-hmm.
at the start of the halftime show. Normally it's about 100 after. We lose a third, but but you get a lot of people watching, and then they'll be like, oh, okay, and then you put a little link in at the end of it, and they'll be like, yeah, cool. And so there's some people we're hoping to have brought some songs. Wabsy's got another very ambitious rap he's working on, I know. Antonio's had a song in the works for a long time. We're still hoping he brings it out at some point. AJFC Joey, new song now, please Joe. We're still waiting for that. He's always tormenting us with his dulcet tones where you're thinking, it's going to be brilliant, and then doesn't quite get out. You know what I mean? And he's like, oh, I'm working on something, like, oh, excited, and then he sends me a little preview. I'm like, oh, it's great, and he's like, yeah, but don't share that yet. It's not ready. And I'm
We
like,
are still waiting for him to come to interview as well. So Joe, I know you're watching, so you have to
enjoy
do something.
enjoy your dinner, Joe, and then go get the guitar, yeah, please, yeah. He's probably cooking right now, so yeah. Shout out to Joey. Um, but yeah, I think that would be fantastic in terms of that, and then. I don't know. I like there's part of me that's like it's quite tricky, and so I'm always trying to think of ideas, and I've got a little list of ideas, and some of them I really like, and then some of them are like, I don't know, it's going to work. And then I also thought I might do a bit more acting, because that's weirdly enough, that's actually easier to do, it's quicker to do. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I don't know. We're gonna have to think of that, but we'll hopefully keep making them good. Yeah.
Okay. Next question comes from all the Twitch watchers.
Okay.
I don't know actually, but I think there are a lot of people are interested in this one. Now, we can see that you drink a lot of Diet Coke during the streams.
Yeah.
How much you drink off stream,
Yes.
or how much do you drink diet Coke
That's
daily?
not that's not really an exaggerated thing. I mean, I do obviously always have a bottle here, mainly to open the bottle so that Nick lasts. But we have we did order. You'd probably be able to find the image right on Instagram where like I did order 96 bottles in the other day, and I have already drunk almost a quarter of them. So there's four left out of my first. So how many is that? 24. So I've drunk 20 bottles since 4 days, 5 days, 4 or 5 bottles a day is my average going rate.
Uh, have you ever worried about your health?
No, I, it's obviously like you obviously have to look at it. I think there's a lot of pseudoscience in the health. People like to, lots of people. This is going to go in a little bit of a ramble here for a change, but a lot of people will you watch a video and if you search Diet Coke health on YouTube, you get a lot of people who speak with very confident voices and they say, "Hey, I'm a doctor and I just want to say that Diet Coke's killing you for the XYZ reasons or something." And then you say, well, where's the actual science? Like, tell me the data. Where's your studies report? And they don't really have studies. They say, well, if you look at the caffeine in Diet Coke, it raises your blood pressure and it does this and X, Y, and Z. But then you can also find other studies where caffeine actually increases your health longevity. There was a recent article done by, I think, Run It Once. Is it Run It Once or the poker school coach
The
thing?
golfer thing.
Yeah, I maybe Run It Once. I may have it wrong. I may try and find that link if you like. But they talk about coffee and they say coffee. It's really recent, like the last few days, and they say coffee is bad for your grinding. And then you read it because that's kind of interesting, and you read it, and like I've read quite a lot of examples where someone says that coffee is actually quite healthy for you, and not to worry about the kind of fear factor of coffee that a lot of people talk about. And the claims are it can make you anxious, and then they say, well, look at all the anxiety that is present in today's society, as though coffee somehow the cause of it, which is a bit of a stretch of an
Yeah.
evaluation. And then they say it brings up your blood pressure, as though like, yeah, okay, it does for sure, but like, is that a problem for your grinding? And also, is that like necessarily a health problem? And I think there's a lot of, let's say, it's a lot of people will take little leaps, you know what I mean, where they will take sort of semi-truths and then expand them into lots of it. And I think honestly, I'm very distrustful of anybody that says who actually acts confidently. And then that's a funny thing to say, but when you look at proper experts in dietary health, I went out with a dietitian for a long time who was like super qualified, and every time I used to ask her questions about it, she would be like, "It depends." Shout out to "it depends" as a statement.
There's you changed the quote. I wanted to leave it, but we changed it to
Because
hello.
I used to say hello, and yeah, and she used to say it depends. No, but like I think when you look at expert of their fields, no, okay, I was gonna now segue back to who else says it depends, but that's often the answer a lot of the times. You know what I mean? Like is Diet Coke bad for you? And like I've actually asked proper health dietitians because I'm a diabetic, all right, which I have to go and get checked medically very regularly, like what every 2 year, twice a year, where they take all my blood pressure, take all my height, all this stuff. Doing well health wise. But they have a dietitian there as well, which like says, well, what are you eating? Can we add more, less, whatever? And you ask about Diet Coke, and it's like, no, nah, it's not a problem. Like it may be bad for your teeth, but that's about it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so the idea that like you hear stories sometimes, where some guy goes, well, I know a guy drank Diet Coke and his head fell off, and you're like, yeah, okay, you know.
Uh, by the end of the day, we all die by the end of story. That story will end for everyone, and
Yes,
if you drink Diet Coke or not, it probably doesn't change that much.
absolutely. I mean, and what I would say is like there are some things, it's very easy to kind of like be a bit hypocritical if you like. So some people will have a very negative view on Diet Coke, but then we'll talk about alcohol, for example, as though that's kind of like cool and okay. Now, of course, alcohol is cool and okay in moderation, but as a little again random tangent to the story, I used to volunteer in a homeless shelter when I was 20 in my early 20s, and there was a guy walked in once and he looked completely ill and he looked about 55 or something, and he had a little whiskey bottle and he'd been drinking like I chatted to him a little bit, and he basically for the last 10, 20 years he drank a bottle of vodka like for his breakfast basically every morning. And
Hmm.
honestly, he looked so ill, and I chatted to him and I was expecting him to be about 60 and he was 35. Like he was so young, but just long-term alcoholism just crushes you. And so I think it's important to like find the right boundary. Of course, like Diet Coke's, there's better things to drink, but in terms of negative health effects, there's no studies long term that show any even small increases in terms of human consumption and Diet Coke having a negative health impact. You look at smoking, you look at alcohol, you look at cannabis, you look at any of the other things. I'm not. I can already feel a lot of people who are watching this being like, no, that's cool. Like, what do you don't let me stop smoking weed or something. Like, of course, if you're in moderation, it's fine. But if you're a chronic user of those substances, that will have more negative impacts than it will Diet Coke Zero, and every study will confirm that. So I'm very defensive of my Diet Coke.
Yeah, it seems like it. Seems like.
I've had a lot of chats about like people come in where they say, "Oh, it's really bad for you," and I say, "Well, show me the evidence," and they go, "Well, I don't know." But it's like people like to say things and then they don't actually have the reasons behind them, and I always a bit
He
frustrated.
always said, I just enjoy it, like whatever. That's what I do with the cigars. That I can't like in any way I can't say cigars are good for me. You
Yeah.
know, in
Like,
health
but
wise.
every, if red meat is not great for you, but like you can have, it's like find the right level of risk if you like, and that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, that was a bit of a ramble about about Diet Coke.
Was the question Diet Coke, was it? Or I don't even remember the question. It was Diet Coke, wasn't it?
But
Cheers.
cheers. Next one is something you obviously don't do recent years. I at least since I know you, I haven't seen you tilted. But what has been the worst thing that you have done on tilt?
I've honestly, I've never tilted where I've thrown a keyboard out of the window or anything like that. Um, I'm always good at taking a break. Like I get tilted, of course, and throughout my poker career, there's many times where like I had to stop playing for a bit,
Mm-hmm.
Where, but I was very good at just taking breaks, if you like. There were times when I was just incredibly tilted in certain situations. The biggest time I've been tilted, I remember actually, because it wasn't even a poker tilt. I was my first big tournament, and it was a £50 buy-in or something, and we were down to 120 people entered, down to the last 22 or something. 18 got in the money, and it was a lot of money for me at the time. I was 19, I think. And I get aces, as every good story goes. I raise pre, a guy calls, king eye flop, so you bet, he shoves, I call, he's got king queen. I go to turn over my aces. I'm so excited by this prospect that one of the aces falls off the table. So I'm gonna pick it up, put it back on the table. We're all like, cool, but the dealer puts her hand up, and she puts her hand up, and the tournament director comes over, and we're near the bubble, and she goes, "What's the problem?" And the dealer goes, "His ace fell off the table." And the tournament director looks at it and goes, "Hand's dead." And you're like, "What?" And his hand's dead. And it's like, "Oh, well, that sucks." I was thinking like the hand's reset, they're going to redeal it. He goes, "No, your hand's dead." And they take the aces and muck them. And he says, "You got to run the board out anyway." And he runs the board out, and I would have won, and I would have been close to the chip lead. And now I'm bust. And it was my biggest tournament. And I was like, "Sorry, what's going on? Like, I don't understand what has just happened here." And the thing I was so frustrated about was not really the poker. Like, I was it's the injustice of this all. Like,
I'm
and I was like,
so confused about this one as well.
because he didn't care. My opponent didn't care. My opponent was like, no, he was actually arguing for me. He was like, "That's a bit harsh." Like, like you could tell I was really annoyed by that. But I remember it being so, and the dealer was like, "You could have manipulated the card or something." I was like, "You can literally strip me naked. I don't care." Like, I was exaggerating a bit, but
Mm-hmm.
and then I was like, "You're going to use the same deck though that I could have just manipulated." He's like, "Yeah, it's fine." But I was like, "Well, how can you use that deck to play the next hand if it's not good for?" Anyway, I was so tilted, but my tilt involved me going and sitting in a huff on a sofa. I didn't, yell or anything. I just sat in a huff, and I just like for an hour, just like put on. I remember I put my headphones because I was there with a big group of people, and I put on my headphones for a long time and just like was really annoyed, and then wrote a bunch of angry WhatsApps to people, and then after an hour, I was like, "Okay, I think I'm okay." And then I went to play some cash and did okay at cash as well, which was good. But I remember that was the most tilted I've been. But I've always tilted in a very controlled manner. I think
Mm-hmm.
where I've never gone ballistic or anything. I've never like sat and just sit with a bankroll at 5-10 or something. You know what I mean? It's always been very like, okay, take a break. I'm really annoyed. Go for a walk. And just walk paces. Until I get better. So I think I've always been fortunate enough to be controlled in that aspect.
That's good. I think that's part of your success as well.
But yeah, definitely one of the key pillars, ladies and gentlemen.
Next one. I like this question because I'm really looking forward to hear the answer. Uh, what with which achievement in your lifetime you're the most proud of the thing you've
Ooh,
done?
that's a good question. Wow. What have I actually done? um, yeah, I mean, that's yeah, proud. What was I proud of? I mean, I'm fairly proud. I think. Again, this sounds a little bit arrogant, but like I think I'm fairly proud of like my. I like to think I've got a good reputation as a coach and as a person. You know what I mean? I've never like done anything shady. I've never done. I've always worked really really hard. I've always tried to do my best for like helping people to for their make the best of the situation. Um, in poker, like I can't really be proud of the big tournament win, for example, because that was just a bit of variance, and so I can be a little bit proud of like good chippy V, but again, that's I don't know if I'm super proud of that because it's a bit of a I manipulate it a little bit to like make sure I'm maximizing chippy V at the expense sometimes of dollar EV, and so again, that was something else that's like you can be proud about it, but it's a little bit like whatever. Um, and so to be proud of like a 25k chem sample at whatever, it's like yeah, it's good, but I'm not thrilled about it. Um, I'm fairly proud, weirdly enough, of like Twitch. I really enjoy it. I'm quite proud of like how that channel's grown and become, and that's quite a cool thing that I like. And I'm fairly proud of, yeah, I mean, like I'm proud of, let's say, the journey I've taken, if you like. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm quite happy about that, and I don't know if that's a sense of pride, but it's a sense of satisfaction, maybe, that like I had decisions, and I kind of had a lot of your family and your friends have I think most poker players who experience this doubt you a lot of times. And especially I had a lot of, let's say, I gave them a lot of evidence to suggest their doubt was legitimate throughout the years. And now how the turntables have turned because I can say your doubt was incorrect. And I'm quite
Yeah.
proud of like I got through the other end if you like. And now uh yeah, I'm proud of that, I guess, as a my decisions were proven correct as I at the time said they could have been, or I was hopeful they would be. But I'm proud, I guess, of that, if you like. Yeah,
Nice. Like it.
thanks. Yeah.
What the future holds for you? What are the future goals?
So it's a good question. I think I'm in a fortunate enough position where there's lots of different, let's say, routes I can take. Where sometimes I have ambitions of like maybe I want to just go back super hard into the grinding mode. You know what I mean? Like I a lot of the guys I've worked with are having spectacular results. So and especially I think depends a little bit on how the game's developed, but like it's never not an option to kind of get back heavy into grinding mode a little bit and reduce the coaching. At the same time, I could also go the other route where I go heavier into coaching mode and like just almost like semi-retire and play the odd games now and then and keep working on that. Um, there's other options in terms of the future about how I could be in a case that in a few years' time, maybe I've sort of lost a little bit of the joy of poker, and I sort of using it more as a sort of part side income, if you like. You know what I mean? Where I
Mm-hmm.
play poker and I still enjoy it, but I don't play it all the time. I'm not doing it every day, and it could be that then my interests will venture out into other areas. That was more of an idea I had 5 years ago. Right now, I think that's less likely. Um, Twitch, of course, is an option. Like just try and keep promoting Twitch, and then wait for the Poker Stars, Party Poker, and Coca-Cola sponsorships all to
Starting
simultaneously.
with Coca Cola.
Yeah, they'll all simultaneously roll in together. I think. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm going to fuse them together as a sponsorship goals.
That's
um,
a great deal signing day.
yeah, yeah. It'll be the one, the first ever Party Poker and Poker Stars and Coca-Cola sponsored pro. You're getting all that on a t-shirt maybe, and then also of course like even 601. I mean like the idea of maybe in future working more comprehensively and in partnership more with 601 than I am at the moment, and like really trying the best to like keep the stable growing, keep the stable as a successful place to be and to grow and to learn and to enjoy and both in poker and also in life aspects as well. And I think that can also be a potential future direction that we can maybe be going heading in. But the nice thing is that right now I haven't got anything set in stone. I haven't got a very clear like
Hmm.
plan of I want to do 100%. So I'm going to do a bit of everything and then just sort of see what feels good, see what I'm enjoying, see what's going well, etc., etc., and then yeah, keep going in that direction. And yeah, pretty soon I guess be a professional halftime video maker could also be the option, wouldn't it? So
Why not? You're
why
doing
not?
good. Do you believe in any sort of destiny?
No, if I'm totally honest, I'm not a very uh, spiritual guy or anything like that. I don't believe in a. I don't see the evidence for a because that's more appropriate, I guess. I don't see the evidence of a kind of destiny kind of point of view. I don't see the evidence for a kind of let's say things are meant to be in a certain way or something. I think it's challenging like that because then if you have the belief that like everything works out the way it's supposed to be, the thing I struggle with that is that even if your own life then becomes very successful, if someone, let's say, falls on hard times and they become, let's say, impoverished or they're really struggling or they get ill or they have family members that suffer or anything like that, if your initial idea is everything works out as it's supposed to be, you kind of there's almost a sense of well they kind of got what was coming for them for whatever reason,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? And then I really worry about that because I think there's lots of we're talking very broad topics now, but there's lots of let's say suffering in the world, which I think it's incumbent on us as humans to try and reduce the suffering of everybody. And I think there's a challenge where if your belief is everything works out in the world, so I don't need to try that hard, I worry that that actually in the end increases suffering, perhaps. You know what I mean? And so
Hmm.
I have nothing against, let's say, more spiritual people, more religious people. Like I will have very happily talk to them, and I try not to be. I try and always remain humble. You know what I mean? That like I don't know what's going on, and I'm okay not knowing. But I, again, similar to like some of my earliest rambles, I'm a kind of a little bit of a proud skeptic, if you like, where if someone makes a bold statement, I want to see evidence. You know what I mean? If someone says that they think that uh, let's take Jack's. I mean, I love Jack, but let's take his. You know, how do you not know that you can't be in a video game? That was his bold statement. To his credit, he then gave evidence saying, "Well, we can't know that we're not in a video simulator." That was his evidence. So it's like
Hmm.
you can't know, of course. And so, but if someone came along and said you definitely are in a video simulator, then I'd say, okay, that's a bold statement, and now I need to see evidence. You know what I mean? Or whatever. And so I think that's a really I'm very happy with that being as a skeptical nature. I think as some people maybe it's not such in their characters to be as comfortable with the kind of uncertainty.
Hmm.
I've had lots of chats for my girlfriend, for example, and she's a lot more uncomfortable. She wants certainty in a lot of areas of life, and we have lots of like deep philosophical conversations at times where it's like trying to what's the meaning of life kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't really know, but I kind of stick to my morals and stick to my principles, and I'm quite happy doing that. You know what I mean? And I'm a kind of happy not knowing. You know what I mean? And I've literally been chat to Oscar's Instagram, but I've also always been using Alan Watts. You know what I mean? Like the point of a dance is not in mid dance to question what it's just enjoy the dance. You know, and I always talk about that in like what's the purpose of life. What's the purpose of asking the purpose of life, if you like? It's a
Hmm.
strange question, and the purpose of asking the purpose is you're kind of seeking more joy and happiness and satisfaction and less anxiety and reducing the negative impacts, if you like. But it's also just enjoy yourself, I think, and I think that's a nice way to be. But yeah, no destiny.
Uh, Putting Alan Watts in your answer gets 100 points from me. So what?
There we go. There we go.
I took down Alan Watts just to
Where is
change.
he? I was going to say I thought he was on the background, and now I can't see him. Oscar.
It's just for season 2. We
Season two.
switch up the background a little bit. There will be Tony Robbins
You've
and
just got
Alan
Tony Robbins.
Watts
I see.
switching.
I see a very big jaw and a shouting man. I go, it's Tony Robbins.
That's not. Yeah. Uh, since we talked about life, destiny, and a little bit of happiness,
Yeah.
what is your definition of happiness?
I think, uh, let's say the it's tricky because I think it depends. I think happiness is different for everybody, and so people have different, let's say, criteria for what makes them happy as an individuals. And so, for myself, for example, um, I would struggle to be happy if there were people that I was close to were suffering. If that makes sense, you know what I mean. I'm a lot happier when people around me aren't suffering, and so my family, my friends, even everybody I work with in 651, please don't suffer because that makes me unhappy. But if you are suffering, please reach out. You know what I mean. It. I'm happy if I can help people as well. I think that's a lot of it where it comes from, that kind of like maternal nature of mine, where um, yeah, if people are doing well, I automatically feel better for myself in a way. You know, I draw a lot of happiness, I think, from other people's happiness. Um, and then, of course, for myself, like I'm happy if I'm healthy. I'm happy if I'm uh, having what I feel like is a good balanced life. I'm happy if I feel like I'm making good progression, or if I'm, you know, where I want to be. And especially for the last sort of 4 years, I've been really found myself being happier and happier in terms of my professional life. Um, and yeah, I think right now I'm the happiest I've ever been. You know what I mean? I think when people, it's a funny thing to say because I think for 2020, that year was so tough for so many people. But for me, it was probably one of the best years I've had. Like in terms of, just really enjoyed it. And I think there's a certain amount of um, stoic philosophy that I ascribe to, and there's a certain amount of other, let's say, mental beliefs that are really working for me in terms of keeping my optimism stuff. A bit like Henny, you know, Henny's beautiful keep the enthusiasmo. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Henny, if it's not you, then who? Then who? And I think you know, I really like that as an aspiration, and I think I really find myself being really really comfortable, and I think I'm not so worried about trying to be these days. Like I'm not so worried about trying to be the best of anything or whatever. I'm really happy in the kind of like, if I made, let's say, 5K a month for the rest of my life, or whatever the equivalent would be, obviously, I think I'd be pretty fine with that. You know what I mean? I don't think I need material external things for the internal validation. I like to think that I'm kind of happy with other things, and I'm more happy about like relationships and stuff like that's going for me. So yeah, I think the definition of happiness is different for everybody, but I think for myself, I'd be like no suffering for people I love, and then adopting Stoic philosophies and understanding that you don't have control about everything that happens in the world, but you do have control about your perceptions of what happens. And the more that you can ascribe to, like, let's say, injecting the logic when it's required to making you reduce your own suffering, I think it's just a fantastic way to be and enjoy yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I like that a lot because I shared that video because for me, I can't imagine myself being happy when somebody from my family or like close friends are really
Yeah.
suffering. It's like it's not really a joy anymore.
Yes. And if they were suffering and you were suffering, I think I would suffer too then, Oscar. So there's a
But
lot of pressure.
please
There's a
no
lot of
suffer.
pressure. A lot of pressure on your friends and family. You know.
So let's not suffer.
Yeah.
Let's keep the joy alive
Keep the
for
joy.
everyone.
Always keep the enthusiasm.
Yeah. Uh, last time you answered to my bonus question, but seems like Jonas, shout out to Jonas, who needs to appear in every interview. Top up is
Yes.
there.
Oh, mushroom head.
Wasn't happy with your answer, so I will ask you again.
Oh no. Why
Uh,
wasn't you as happy with my
I don't know, like
completely unprepared, long-winded ramble?
I can't imagine why he would like how Jonas can be unhappy. You make us suffer now.
I'm unhappy now. Yeah.
But let's make him happy. If
Okay.
your life would end in 15 minutes, what would be the title of your story and a very short description?
I really struggled with this question first time round, and I remember thinking afterwards I could have given a much better answer. And then about a week later, I thought to myself that would have been a much better answer. And now I've forgotten what my better answer would be, which is really frustrating because I had a really good one. I've watched every interview, so I really liked a lot of what people's answers were, um, and yeah, I think I think it would involve. I'm still struggling to think of a catchy title, but it would involve certainly the kind of realizing that taking we have far more responsibility for things and we have far more power over our life than we actually realize. And so what I mean by that is someone it's funny. I'm going to reference Charlie Carell now. Shout out to Charlie Carell. But in a poker stream he did with True Geordie before he sucked out on Jonas, with his sevens ranging, he asked a question which said something like, um, who is really in control in this world? You know what I mean? Like he did one of these weird conspiratorial things, and then there was a lot of like conspiratorial things, some of it like anti-Semitic, some of it like these bizarre, horrible kind of things which Charlie Carell's just cool to let run in front of a 3,000 YouTube unchallenged, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, George Soros does it. And you're like, Charlie, come on, can you question that a little bit? Like, anyway, I'm going off on a tangent again. But I thought of a really good answer to that. I think I really like my answer, which I didn't obviously write. But the idea of like, it doesn't matter who is in control of the world, if you like. It doesn't matter who you think is, if there's some shadowy organization or whatever, the Illuminati is existing or something. I think the real answer is who is in control of your world. And so, for everybody watching, don't think about who's in control of the world or who's in control of the universe. Who is in control of your universe? Who is in control of your world? And the answer is 100%. You are the most important character, the most influential person in your world, and it is your responsibility to try and make the best of whatever the cards you get dealt with, if you like. And so maybe something like that. And it sounds a little bit harsh, and I don't mean that at all. I'm not saying that like don't help other people or anything like that, but it's to make sure that we have that, taking that responsibility when we can. Something like treating your life. Life is like getting dealt cards. Life is like a box of chocolates, you know what I mean? But like, we all get dealt different cards in life, and it is up to you. It is your responsibility to play those cards to the best of your ability, kind of thing. And I think something like that would be maybe my message. I'm trying to go
That will
towards.
be message, but I need the title.
Life is like a pre-flop hand range. You never know if you're top 5% or bottom 5% or somewhere in the middle, but try and play it the most profitably, whatever you get dealt.
That's your book title.
Does that fit? It was a lot of, yeah. Life is like a pre-flop hand range. Subtitle: try and play them as properly as you can.
And
it's your responsibility. Is that better, Jonas?
Let's see what Jonas answers to this one. I like it. Do you remember the last answer?
What did I say last time? I rambled on, and then I said something
but
like.
But it was pretty good. You ended up in a pretty good title. That's why I was surprised.
The boy who tried. What was it? I don't even remember. Something like.
Texas Tommo, the guy who turned his passion for cards into living.
Oh, that's quite a good one, actually.
Yeah, it was like.
You're happy with that one.
Yeah. Now you have 2 books now.
Okay, all good. Second series, yeah. Top seller.
Oh, this is a very good potential for the best interview of 2021.
Okay.
The
Oscars.
The Oscars is like that episode is not out yet, but hopefully it will be before this interview. Let's see how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. What's your last message to Team 651?
I feel like I didn't reference enough people in my previous answers, by the way. I should have shouted out like everybody. I meant to, because there's so many great people in the stable. There's so many fantastic people who I work with weekly. So many people who make such fantastic contributions to the group chat, and there's so much talent here, you know what I mean? Just in terms of like, let's just talk about the poker, you know what I mean? Let alone everybody who is involved and all the guys that message. And it's such a pleasure to be here as a coach and just as a member of the community. And I think it's really trying not to take for granted the kind of fantastic environment that you have here. Like we've come from other stables. I'm sure lots of other people have come from other stables as well. And we tried hard in Evolve to try and shout out to Evolve, shout out to Gabe, I guess, who's hello Gabe if you're watching, go sign up to his sex coaching. But we tried hard to like really try and give create that kind of social aspects that we enjoyed in Evolve to try and bring it a bit more here. And I think it's a really great place to be, you know what I mean, in terms of as a poker professional. And I can speak with certainty, and I'm sure Oscars can echo it, because I know Oscars for a long time you're on your own as well, playing, you know, 3s and 7s and stuff, where like it's life is so much nicer in the stable. It's so poker life is so much nicer, and but just in general, you know what I mean. It's such a nicer experience to be part of a community and have that social interaction and all these sort of things. The message, I guess, to everybody watching is let's keep going. You know what I mean? Like there's lots of work to do. Let's not rest on our laurels, and let's not think that we've made it. I mean, we are by all metrics and measurements currently the best performance table for the last year and a half or something, like in terms of when you compare EVs and things like that. We have nearly all of the best regs are flying under the 611 banner in terms of the guys who are making the most amount of pure dollar EV in the month, and I'm sure the guys with the best Audis. I can't say that for certain because I don't know how many hours people are playing, but like we know when we look at Still Phoenix numbers, for example, or any of the public pools, that our top guys are outperforming their top guys like month after month after month, and just consistency. So I really do think it's a fantastic place to be. I would also encourage guys, if you're a bit nervous and you're a bit shy, and maybe you've been a bit like what's the Twitch term when people aren't chatting and they just say I'm just here. I can't remember the term now.
I'm not a Twitch guy. Sorry, I can't help you.
There's I forget the name of it, but there's a name for it when people just sit there and they don't say anything, but they're just watching. And but there's I think there's some I've worked with most of the 611 guys by this point, but there's a few guys I've never worked with and who I haven't seen too much in the chat. And if they're ever watching the Vimeo, I'd really encourage them just reach out, just hit people up. People are very friendly.
Did you mean spectators?
Spectators, but it's people like lying dormant. You know what I mean? They're just viewing, not talking. I forget the name of it. Okay. But I think you will also, the more that you put in, the more you get out. If that makes sense. So it's your responsibility. Echoing my book statement. I think it's a fantastic place and a fantastic platform for poker success, but take advantage of it. Join all the sessions, sign yourself up for one-on-one, sign yourself up for sessions, go and study the solvers, go and hit some other people up, go and say, hey, do you want to look at some hands tonight? Go and make some friends if you like. I mean, everyone's so friendly here. It's so nice. Come to interviews, absolutely. Watch the videos, watch the comment, question, everything.
Comments, yeah.
Like, subscribe. That's not really an option here, is it?
But liking and commenting is an option.
If it ever goes onto YouTube, shout out to Pedro if he's ever putting us on YouTube and be like and subscribe for more content. But I think it's just a fantastic place to be, and I just make the most out of it, because I think it's something that it's easy to take for granted. And then if Team 601 in a year's time, like poker goes, we'll all miss it. I think we'll all look back at this time in our life in 20, 30 years and be like, I really enjoyed that. You know what I mean? That was a really fun place to be. And, it sucks so much now that I'm just sitting here living in my house on the moon, but a bit bored. My Wi-Fi connection's not very good, but I've got very ambitious plans for my future. Yeah.
Well, I like the message. Yeah, it's true. Like, there's a reason why so many people, so many gurus, let's call them that, say like enjoy the moment, live in present. Because once it's gone, you can look at it, and you can judge it. But while you're in process, you don't want to judge it. You don't. Absolutely. Like, I don't know how it is for you Brits, but for us, is we can't. We grow up with that thing that we can't speak about the current moment too good, because then you will jinx it, basically.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's such a weird and flawed concept, because if you don't enjoy the moment now, you can't really enjoy it 5 years later.
I think there's a lot of that as well, where a lot of people are living either in the past or living for the future, and the idea of like, I'll sacrifice my happiness now for some distant dream.
Yeah.
And I think it's a dangerous precedent. It's a dangerous path to go down, where if you're sacrificing happiness because you think, well, in 5 years' time, then I'll be happy, you know what I mean? And you'll say, well, then I'll be like Dan Bilzerian or something, you know what I mean? And or whatever. I think that's kind of quite a common thing, where I think there's so much to get out of it now, and realizing that like you're in a privileged position, just being able to be in the stable and interact with so many fantastic players. And yeah, I think not taking advantage of that would be a shame. So that's a bit of encouragement I'm trying to offer for guys. And also, of course, shout out to everybody. I should give some names here, because I feel like I've not done enough names. So
name dropping now.
Shout out to Jack, to Jason, to Rudy, to Wubsy. Special shout out to Wubsy and Ducky, my favorite poker couple. Just behind though, Jonas and Nick. Shout out to everybody who's done an interview with us, like all of the guys. Stoyan, for example. Shout out to Antonio, even though Antonio didn't give me a shout out, so I'm not so sure about that, but whatever. Antonio Juan, for example, both fantastic players. I'm going to miss people, so I apologize to anyone I missed out, but like it's a bit like a thank you speech, isn't it, where I'm just listing names. But you know, like all of the people I've enjoyed fully everybody's interview. It's such a nice thing to see, like the personality more for like Mockers and the boy Nick and Jonas's and who else have I missed on there? Eugenio.
Our first coach. Everybody's first
Cog.
coach.
I love Cog. Cog was the reason I initially joined Evolve, almost certainly. He was the deciding factor. All the coaches, all of the high stakes players, anybody who's done a song. Shout out to Joey for writing Karamba Wobble Pig, and please write Karamba Wobble Pig too. All of the guys in the groups, everybody who comes regularly to my sessions or Wubsy sessions or Jack sessions, and everybody who asks questions in it. Alex, Victor, Tom, Saboth, you know, all of the guys there. And I mean, there's so many people. I apologize. I've missed an absolute amount of names. So sorry. All of the Greeks, you know, I mean, anyone who won heads up. Leon's won the heads up. Dimitri came second. Mike, I don't know if Mike's been about recently, but he came second. And the shout to George Arfile, who won the inaugural. He didn't actually. Jonas won the inaugural one, but George won the first proper one. We're going to do another heads up championship this month, so look out for that and see if you can win yourself a nice Team Swift mug. Just shout out to everybody who's here. Development wing, big love to them. Yeah, it's great. I'm happy.
Good. Thank you for coming.
Oh, and shout out to Oscars, by the way. Thank you for all these interviews. I think they're a fantastic addition to the Vimeo library. Oscars not only is a fantastic poker player, I think like you're kind of seen as, you know, like I'll do the interviews and stuff like that, but like Oscars is a phenomenal poker player as well. You know what I mean? If you can remember to raise the heads up small blind, he's fantastic. but like, you know, Oscars is fundamental. It's a huge part of my development as a poker player. And to be honest, most of the time when I do coaching, I'm just copying something the Oscars told me 3 years ago and just repeating it. So.
I'm not so sure about
really,
that.
Really, I owe him a lot of money. He should be getting a percentage, but
someday.
Sometime, yeah.
All right, thank you. I don't know how to wrap this up better than you did. Like for the name dropping, like you did some.
Did I forget anybody?
Probably we have a lot of people.
Okay,
here.
but if I forgot it, Oscars couldn't also remember you, so that's Oscars' fault. So that's good. That's covered me. Thank you.
Yeah, let's pretend I edited that bit out.
We're gonna edit names in if I remember people. Yeah.
If you feel like you needed to be mentioned, but you haven't been, then
John, Pablo, Tim.
Then just message
Camille.
I
forgot Camille. So sorry, Camille.
he will name drop you in Twitch.
Adrian, how can I forget Adrian, my boy?
Oh yeah, on Twitch you will get shoutouts, like my Instagram.
If you could follow Oscars, who were the best Instagram out there, O_Grivs, fantastic poker life content as well, and a little bit of Alan Watts thrown in.
That's the ending title.
Yeah.
Follow me on Instagram.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, and see you all next year. No, this year. Let's call it that, and come to my interviews.
Cheers all.